Section 5. Pell, Station Central. Com Central Office, 1300 hours. The boards in Central Com were lit from end to end, jammed with calls from every region of the station at once. Residential use had shut itself down in crisis. Situation Red was flashing in all zones, advising all residents to stay put. They were not all regarding that instruction. Some halls of the halls on monitor were vacant. Others were full of panicked residents. What showed now on Q monitor was worse. Security call, John Lucas ordered, watching the screens. Blue 3. The division chief leaned over the board and gave directions to the dispatcher. John walked over to the main board, behind the harried comm chief's post. The whole of council had been called to take whatever emergency posts they could reach, to provide policy, not specifics. He had been closest, had run, reaching this post, through the chaos outside. Hale, he fervently hoped, had done what he was told, was sitting in his apartment with Jasad. He watched the confusion in the center, paced from board to board, watched one and another hall in confusion. The comm chief kept trying to call through to the station master's office, but even he could not get through. Tried to route it through station command comm, and kept getting a channel unavailable blinking on the screen. The chief swore, accepted the protests of his subordinates, a harried man in the eye of a crisis. "What's happening?" John asked. When the man ignored the question for a moment to handle a subordinate's query, he waited. "What are you doing?"
"Counselor Lucas," the chief said in a thin voice, "we have our hands full. There's no time."
"You can't get through."
"No, sir. I can't get through. They're tied up with command transmission. Excuse me."
"Let it foul," he said, when the supervisor started to turn back to the board, and when the man looked at him, startled. "Give me general broadcast."
"I need the authorization,"
the comm chief said. Behind him, red lights began to flash and multiply.
"It's the authorization I need, Counselor. Station Master has to give it."
"Do it!" The man hesitated, looked about him as if there were advice to be had from some other quarter. John seized him by the shoulder and faced him to the board while more and more lights flashed on the jammed boards. "Hurry it!" John ordered him, and the chief reached for an internal channel and punched in a mic.
"General override to number 1,
he ordered, and had the acknowledgement back in an instant.
"Override on vid and comm."
The comm center main screen lit, camera active. John drew a deep breath and leaned into the field. The image was going everywhere, not least to his own apartment, to the man named Jasad. "This is Counselor John Lucas," he said to all Pell, breaking into every channel, operations and residential, from the station's busy directing incoming ships to the barracks of Q to the least and greatest residents in the station. "I have a general announcement. The fleet presently in our vicinity is confirmed to be that of Mazian, proceeding in under normal operations for docking. This station is secure, but will remain under condition red until the all-clear is given. Operations in the comm center and elsewhere will proceed more smoothly if each citizen will refrain from the use of communications, except in the most extreme necessity. All points of the station are secure, and there has been no damage or crisis. Records will be made of calls, and failure to regard this official request will be noted. All Downer work crews, report to your section habitats at once and wait for continue about your assigned business. If you can solve problems without calling Central, do so. As yet, we have nothing but operations contact with the fleet. As soon as information becomes available, we will make it public. Please stay by your receivers. This will be the quickest and most accurate source of news." He leaned out of the field. The warning lights went off the console camera. He looked about him to find the chaos in the boards much less, as the whole station had been otherwise occupied for a moment. Some calls returned at once, presumably necessary and urgent. Most did not. He drew a deep breath, thinking in one part of his mind of what might be happening in his apartment, or worse, away from it, hoping that Jasad was there, and fearing that he would be discovered there. Mazian. Military presence, which might start checking records, asking close questions, and to be found harboring Jasad.
Sir?
It was calm, Chief. The third screen from the left was alight. Angelo Constantine, angry and flushed. John punched the call through.
Use procedures!
Angelo spat and broke off. The screen went dark as John stood clenching his hands and trying to reckon whether that was because he had caught Angelo with no good answer or because Angelo was occupied. Let it come, he thought in an access of hate, the pulse pounding in his veins. Let Mazian evacuate all who would go. Union would come in after, would have need of those who knew the station. Understandings could be reached. His understanding with Jasad paved the way for that. It was no time to be timid. He was in it, and there was no retreat now. The first step, to become visible, a reassuring voice, and let Jasad see him doing it. Become known, have his face familiar all over the station. That was the advantage the Constantines had always had. Monopoly of public visibility, handsomeness. Angelo looked the vital patriarch. He did not. He had not the manner, the lifelong habit of authority. But ability, that he had. And once his heart had begun to settle out of the initial dread of the disorder out there, he found advantage in the disorder, in any events that went against the Constantines. Only Jasad, he remembered Mariner, which had died when Mazian had crowded in on the situation there. Only one thing protected them now, that Jasad had to rely on him and on Hale as his arms and legs, having no network yet of his own. And at the moment, Jasad was neatly imprisoned, having to trust him, because he dared not try the halls without papers, dared not be out there with Mazian coming in. He drew in a breath, expanded with the thought of the power he actually had. He was in the best of positions. Jasad could provide insurance, or what was another body vented, another paperless body, as they sometimes ended up vented out of queue. He had never killed before, but he had known, from the time he accepted Jasad's presence, that it was a possibility.